When I was 16 years old, I went to the DMV to get my driver's permit, and they gave me a Donate Life pamphlet. So I was looking at it and I thought, wow, this is really cool, because the priest at my church had had a heart transplant. I had known a couple other people that had transplants. I had a friend in high school who was waiting for a kidney. So I was very much interested in being an organ donor. So I went to my mom when I got home and I said, Mom, I really want to be an organ donor. They told me to tell you, so I'm telling you. So I opened up the brochure and it said everything that you could donate. And on the bottom it said eyes. And I was like, ooh, I don't want them to take my eyes. Because eyes were just something sacred to me, I guess. So I had told my mom, they can take everything but my eye. On August 24th, 2005, I woke up with severe pain in my left eye. And I noticed on my way to work that the sun was really, really bright. My eye was watering and I had a headache. I didn't know quite what was wrong. I knew that I couldn't drive home, so I called my parents to come get me and take me to the eye doctor. So they started treating me with antibiotics, a patch, just to see what was wrong. 10 weeks later, we found out that I had a very rare disease. It was called acanthamoeba keratitis. And then at age 24, I was in need of a cornea transplant. And I remember that conversation so vividly because here I was in need of the gift that at 16 I didn't want to give. And I thought, do I really deserve it? I wasn't willing to give it, and now I need it. And it was hard to process that. I knew that in order to have a better quality of life, I needed a cornea transplant. The doctor made that clear. But I also felt undeserving of it because just 8 years before I had said verbatim to my mother, don't let them take my eyes, and now I need one. I went from being independent, going to college, having a career, to having to be completely dependent on my parents at age 24 because I couldn't see anymore. It was a very dark time in my life. At nighttime, I would pray that I wouldn't wake up because if I didn't have my sight, I didn't think I wanted to live. And the infection that I had took 1.5 years to heal. And when the healing was over and the amoeba was gone, my doctor looked at me and said, Misty, you can have a cornea transplant and you can get your sight back. And I was just amazed that I had a second chance to see, because at 24 you have all these hopes and dreams of finishing college and having a career and getting married and having babies. And I didn't think any of that was going to happen for me again or anymore because I couldn't see. I didn't want to leave the house. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't work a job. So the thought of having a second chance to see the world, to experience all my dreams, was unbelievable. But I was also ridden with guilt because I knew that someone else was hurting because their loved one passed away. And it took me a long time to realize that people who are grieving can use that as hope for something terrible that happened. And then I began to feel worthy of the transplant and excited. So on October the 9th of 2006, I received the gift of sight. A 30-year-old is somewhere in Colorado had passed away, and their family had said yes. And I see things today because they said yes. And I live a wonderful life because they said yes. And every day when I open my eyes, I think of that donor and I think of that family. Because without them, I wouldn't get to see the faces of my children. I wouldn't get to see my husband. And I think of all the beautiful things that I've seen in the last almost 13 years. I got married. Those church doors opened. I got to see my husband at the end of the aisle waiting for me. That's a sight I never thought I would see. Then I was in labor and delivery, and I got to see my baby's face. That's a gift that I can't imagine. I just can't even express the gratitude I have for that, to see my baby's face, something I never thought that I would see. And because someone said yes, I see it. And I'm so thankful. My husband, I met at church, and I was a cheerleading coach. I found out that Lily's dad was a widower, and his wife passed away suddenly. Her name was Tracy, and he was left with 3 children, ages 5, 3, and 1, to raise by himself. And in his darkest day, when his wife died, the hospital came to him and asked if she could be an organ and tissue donor. And he said yes. And I knew that if a man was selfless enough in their darkest hour to make that decision, that he was the man for me. And I ended up adopting his 3 children just a few years later. So now I'm a mother of 4, and I get to see all these things because of a donor, because someone said yes. Someone like my husband said yes. And his first wife saved 7 lives and restored sight to 2 people. And I'm forever grateful for his gift. And I'm forever grateful to be able to tell his children that their birth mother saved others. And they can see the whole full circle. They felt the grief of losing, but they also, in their adopted mom, get to see the good side and the positive part of organ and tissue donation. If I could talk to someone who wasn't sure whether or not they wanted to register to be an organ donor, I would simply say, I hear a lot of people say things like, nobody would want mine. It's old, it's used, my kidneys don't work. Even though you think it might not be the greatest, I'm sure it's better than someone waiting. And your kidneys are working. You're not on dialysis. Someone is waiting in a dialysis room for a kidney transplant. Just be willing to give. Because in loss and grief, you can gain so much hope from knowing that your loved one lives on and has helped people. And I continue to teach that to my children, and I know that it's just extremely important just to be willing to give and let the professionals take care of the rest.